How's it going, everybody? Chad Lee here, and today we finally have our first Moze build on the channel, and I am so excited about this build because I truly do think this is one of the best Moze builds right now for the takedown and just overall everything. Like, seriously, you can do True Takedown in about like 15 minutes with Moze, which I know sounds like a long time to some of you like Zane and Amara and even Flak players out there. But with Moze, that's pretty good in my opinion. Now to start off our Focus Pocus Moze build, you guys can probably guess what our main weapons are. But let's just go ahead and take a peek. Now first off, our first weapon, this is mainly for mobbing, it's going to be the Redistributor. Consecutive hits, I believe, is seriously one of the best options for this. 125 Incendiary is also a good option. I know these are really hard to get your hands on. If you guys cannot get your hands on a consecutive hits Redistributor or a 125 Incendiary Redistributor, and that Redistributor should probably either be fire, radiation, or maybe shock. You could probably get away with shock, but if you guys can't get your hands on those, I definitely suggest getting your hands on a fire or radiation Hyperfocus, and then those either have 125 Incendiary or consecutive hits. It's up to you. I think with the Hyperfocus, the 125 Incendiary would be a little bit better. But with the Redistributor, I actually don't have a 125 Incendiary, so I don't know what to compare it to. But I would imagine they're pretty darn close. So yeah, this number one slot is going to be our mobbing weapon. But moving down to our main sources of damage, whether that's for bosses, any sort of single target, any single target, these Hyperfocuses are going to outdamage the Redistributor, hands down. And so you are going to want a shock consecutive hits Hyperfocus. That's basically the only one you want in this slot. The main point is for shields, and when you guys can't get into Iron Bear to reactivate your 125 Incendiary, if you're using that on your mobbing slot, this is going to be your main gun. You're going to shred through all sorts of shields, and for Wotan, it is incredibly important because during the Wotan fight, you're constantly switching between shields and armor, so you're always going to be switching between shock and corrosive, so it's really hard to keep up your Iron Bear stuff. So with consecutive hits, you guys can make up that damage very fast, as it does ramp up with grenades, and damage over time. So with a consecutive hits one, you guys are having a way easier time with Wotan, especially during his double shield phase. Probably the hardest thing with Moze is that double shield phase, as you do have to run in there and you're slow and very weak, especially because there's barely any enemies during that part, at least right away. So there's nothing to get Vampire to proc on. But then moving down, we have a corrosive consecutive hits. This is the same reason for the shock consecutive hits, but just for the armor phases, and you guys can ramp up the damage like crazy. Hopefully you guys saw in the opening little montage how fast you can actually kill Wotan with this. It's a little insane. But then down for our main like super heavy mobbing sections that even the Redistributor can't keep up with, we're going to be using a Scourge. 160 splash is definitely your best bet. Otherwise, I also prefer shock on mine just because 99% of the enemies are going to have shields as their first health bar. So that's why I do like shock. And then with this, you guys can just spam it and spam grenades at the same time. You'll never run out of nades, and you'll never really run out of rocket launcher ammo. If you guys do just go into Iron Bear and run around for a little bit and try to pick up your Big Boom Blaster boosters, and then you guys can get your heavy ammo back, and you guys can go back to spamming if there are still enemies left. But yeah, the Scourge is our main like heavy dense mobbing section. So like the bridge in the takedown, I use this a lot. And then moving down, obviously we're going to be using the Cloning Mending Tracker. It is just by far better than any other grenade for Moze for healing, and in terms of damage, it's pretty darn good. Also, I should mention, on our Big Boom Blaster, definitely try to get shock on there. I do have a backup radiation in here in the save file for any of you guys who download that. But shock is definitely the main one I run. Now, the main reason I did not upload this video yesterday is because while recording some clips for this, I noticed something weird. I have two Cloning Maddening Trackers, one with bonus Incendiary, one with bonus Corrosive. And I was noticing in the takedown, like even on Wotan, after he splits and his shield's gone, like I'm shooting at just armor, I was actually getting the same, if not better, damage with the bonus incendiary on here. And it just like was blowing my mind. So I had to take all of yesterday. We even did some more testing on stream last night. And this, I'm gonna stay with bonus incendiary. If the damage is not better than corrosive, it is right there. But for the mobbing sections, it makes the mobbing sections so much easier. So if I can deal basically the same amount of damage to a boss like Wotan with the bonus incendiary versus bonus corrosive, but also get way better mobbing out of it, I'm going to use the bonus incendiary. Now, I definitely suggest you guys try it yourself, see which one works better for you. There are just so many variables in this build that it was really hard for me to test, and if you guys have ever seen Moze's damage equations, they're incredibly weird, especially with bonus elements and stuff like that. So there is so much to go through, and I tried my best to test it, and there's really not the greatest way, but I definitely noticed it's at least very, very comparable to bonus corrosive, so just keep that in mind, and this is why I personally rock bonus incendiary basically the entire time. And then for our class mod, we're going to be using green monster. It's going to allow us to get bonus corrosive. And then also for the skills in green monster, you're going to want as much scorching RPM as you can possibly get, as it will boost our short fuse damage and our fire rate and our crit damage. So that is just overall huge. We're getting massive damage buffs out of scorching RPM. And then we're going to use a snowdrift auto idle just so we can get some movement speed. And also we're going to need as much healing as possible, especially if you guys plan on doing true takedown with this build. Every little bit counts for sure. But otherwise, here, if you guys download the save file, I have a bunch of other weapons for Moze here. Most have like 160 splash or 125 incendiary, consecutive hits, stuff like that. Everything revolving around Moze. So if you guys download the save file, definitely give it a shot. Some other weapons, but personally, this is what I run most of the time right here. But let's go ahead and move on to our skills. Now we're going to start here in Demolition Woman. And we're going to start with 5 points into fire in the Skag Den, so we can do bonus incendiary on splash damage. 4 points into Grizzled, so we can get Iron Bear back, so that way we can activate our ASEs a little bit more often. 5 points into Stainless Steel Bear, and if you guys aren't aware, the Iron Bear damage does boost short fuse damage, so that is the main reason we're doing that. We do actually get a solid boost out of Stainless Steel Bear to our overall damage. And then 3 points into Means of Destruction. This is to help us sustain our ammo in our Redistributor and Hyperfocuses, then also get some grenades back, especially when you guys are using the Scourge. You'll basically never run out of grenades with that. And then 3 points, pull the Holy Pin so our grenades can crit. 3 points into Vampire. This is plenty for healing for the most part, and it's going to allow us to get some more damage in other parts of her skill trees. 1 point into To the Last, so we can throw grenades while we're down. 1 point into Explosive Punctuation. This is just to help us get our Iron Bear back during like boss fights when we can't actually kill an enemy to get Grizzled to proc. So we're just gonna have this instead, just for that little bit extra variety in getting Iron Bear back. And then obviously we're gonna be using Short Fuse, definitely one of her best skills, if not the best. And then for our Iron Bear, we're gonna use one Vanquisher Rocket Pod, and then the other one is gonna be the Vanquisher Rocket Pods, but with target softening. This is going to allow us to weaken enemies, but also if you guys are in Iron Bear, you can actually kill things with these. If you guys really want to kill things with Iron Bear, just go 2 Vanquisher Rocket Pods. But I do like to be able to still kill some like lower enemies, but also target soften some bosses and stuff like that. So that's why I use one of each. But going on to our Shield of Retribution skill tree, we're going to use 5 points in Armored Infantry for more gun damage and damage reduction, and then 5 points into Drowning in Brass. This is a huge damage buff, especially during mobbing sections. And finally, we're going to move on to our Bottomless Mag skill tree. 5 points into Cloud of Lead for the bonus incendiary and not consuming ammo on every 4th shot. 3 points into Stoke the Embers for more bonus incendiary damage. And then 1 point into Redistribution for keeping our ammo up. 1 point into Scrappy. This can allow us to move down to the 3rd tier. And also, you guys are going to be swapping weapons fairly often, so it's definitely better than Match Set or Daka Bear, obviously. And then our final 5 points are going to go into Scorching RPMs. Like I said earlier, we get a huge damage buff off of Scorching RPMs. because the fire rate makes a huge difference, especially with the hyperfocuses and redistributors, just because they shoot fast already. A fire rate increase is a huge fire rate increase for those guns. And then critical hit damage. So you guys are going to be aiming for crits with this gun. Well, any gun, less so the redistributor, but definitely with the hyperfocuses, aim for your crits. And then obviously, like I said, Iron Bear damage, we get 50% at 10 out of 5. And that's going to boost our short fuse. We're going to be doing even more damage there. So yeah, that's basically this build. I'm going to just go ahead and run through the takedown, and I'll show you guys how to actually play this build and what you guys can do with it. All right, after way too much time trying to get us some neutral modifiers, finally have some. We have assault rifle damage and enemy accuracy, so nothing is going to be helping us out. But we're just going to go ahead and run into the takedown, and just like always, I'll meet you guys past the guard gate. Okay, we're inside the takedown here, and we're just going, so the first thing you guys are going to want to do in the takedown is actually focus on the jetpack guys. They by far deal like the most damage out of anybody. So if you guys take out those, you'll be much better off. And like I said earlier, consecutive hits and even green monster get ramped up by your grenades. So make sure you guys are always throwing those grenades. Not only is it going to keep you alive, it's also going to let you guys deal so much more damage quicker. Because right now I'm rocking pure consecutive hits on all of my weapons, and it truly just kind of shreds through everybody. And in True Takedown, the redistributor, as long as you guys are using your bonus elements whenever you can. Also, like I was saying earlier, you can kill people with Iron Bear. This is a heavy that I just mowed down in just a couple seconds with Iron Bear, so it's definitely viable if you guys want to stay in Iron Bear for a little bit. You can definitely do that. Otherwise, the redistributor, and I'll show you guys the hyperfocus here on our Kraken, because the redistributor just for the mobbing sections. Hyperfocuses are for your single targets and bosses. So right now I'm just gonna wait for our Iron Bear to come back so we can actually deal a good amount of damage to our Kraken up here. But otherwise, we're gonna have our corrosive consecutive hits out, and once I get over there, we're gonna go into Iron Bear, do a little target softening on him, get out, and we're gonna be immediately throwing our grenades. Try to stay up. Now this can easily happen, but we'll be perfectly fine. I promise you. We can just melt through the Kraken and just shred through everybody else. It's really not that bad. Either way, you're still Moze, so you can easily die. But as long as you guys spam those nades, especially if you guys pre-spam nades before you get into Iron Bear, you can still heal in Iron Bear. And when you're coming out of Iron Bear, you can get some health going right away, because when you're coming out of Iron Bear, you are very vulnerable. There's a lot of times, especially during like the Kraken, like you guys saw right there, and Wotan, where the targeting circles will be right on your feet and you'll just be getting destroyed. But if you guys get some pre-nades out there, you guys can easily survive some of that a little bit better. So definitely keep that in mind. And then right here, it's just a single target. I can't really see him though, but otherwise we can just use our hyperfocus, spray him down, and we can move on just like that. And I'll catch you guys in the Valkyries. All right, we're over here at Valkyries. I jumped into Iron Bear on my way down. Otherwise, I'm just gonna pull out my shock hyperfocus. And as long as you're hitting crits on the Valkyries, you guys can easily just spray them down. I was trying to kind of spread out the damage a little bit, just so we could deal with a little bit less shields when there's actually like enemies and stuff like that around. Otherwise, pull out your redistributor or hyperfocus. Doesn't really matter for these parts. Redistributor is definitely better for True Takedown, as there's the sheer amount of enemies. The hyperfocus struggles a little bit more to keep up, but otherwise with our hyperfocuses there, we can just shred him down to his immune phase and keep moving on. So this guy's still got some shield left, so we're gonna pull out our shock one, easily shred through that, switch over to our corrosive. Now on some of these guys, it's actually occasionally better off to just stay with the shock one, especially if they start off with a lot of shields, as the consecutive hits ramped up is probably better than switching. Now in that case, I probably actually shouldn't have switched, but it's really not that big of a deal. Whatever you guys do, just keep that in mind. You guys can play around with it, see what times work best for you. But otherwise, we're just gonna try to spray this man down. Unfortunately, we have cryo on us. There we go. And he's going to try to kill us with his little cryo balls, but we're good to go. We're going to throw some more grenades. Now, even though we are using fire, on these shield and corrosive, armored dogs, we don't need corrosive. The fire works perfectly fine. Now here come all the Valkyries, so I'm gonna hop into Iron Bear, run up here, hopefully just kind of distract him. Now I like to shoot him first because he usually does the most damage, and then I like to move to Rhoda, and finally Hildir. And just like that, all the Valkyries are gone, and we can continue moving on in our takedown. Alright guys, that is going to wrap it up for this build video. This video's gone a little bit longer than I wanted to, so I don't want to go through the whole takedown. But if you guys want to see an entire takedown run, make sure to subscribe, because within the next day or two, I will be releasing an entire takedown run with our Focus Moze here, and you guys can see everything that I do. I'll be explaining what I do as I go through it. And yeah, so if you guys want to see that, make sure to hit subscribe. But otherwise, thank you guys very much for watching. I truly do believe this is one of the best Moze builds out there, especially for the takedown. This thing truly does excel, and I'm very proud of it. So, and also, we built this over on Twitch. If you guys want to come check out our future builds, because I basically am always building something new over there on Twitch, make sure to come say hi. It's been a really good time. Seriously, the community that's already over there is amazing, and I really hope some more of you guys come over there. But otherwise, that is going to wrap it up for this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.